Aw.
We are back with Chris Barron and Debbie Stewart, also known as Star Child.
Star Child.
And this is the portion of the show that we get to find out all about y'all as people and your songwriting journey.
Fair enough.
Okay. Well, let's start out, Chris. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Los Angeles, and when I was 10 years old, my dad got a job in Eugene, Oregon, and moved the family up there. And part of the reason for that was that he was scouting out places to get out of Los Angeles because my younger brother had asthma, and they also didn't like the traffic and the city life as much. And as soon as he saw the mountains and trees, he was like, we're going to love this up there.
Oregon's beautiful.
It really was. And I didn't, at 10 years old and my brother at 7, we didn't want to uproot and leave.
No, heck no.
But now Oregon is truly my home now, and I have trouble leaving it. I keep trying to leave. I keep trying to go on tour, but I always end up back everywhere in Oregon.
Well, it's just paradise. Randy and I went there for our honeymoon, and
Yeah.
that was the first time I'd been there. He'd been there several times because he had an aunt who lived there. But it's beautiful. I see the draw. I understand totally why you want to be there.
I remember our family from Southern California, my uncles, would come up and visit, and we'd be driving up I-5, and the most boring stretch of I-5 in Oregon is between Eugene and Portland. You kind of go through the valley a little bit, and then you're getting to the big city, and it's just flat and kind of farmlandy.
Right.
But they were out at the windows just like, oh, my God. And that changed my perspective of it because I was taking it for granted.
Yeah.
But the view from the freeway even is
yeah.
pretty spectacular.
Oh, yeah, it's gorgeous there. And so when was it that you knew that you wanted to be a singer-songwriter and that you wanted to play guitar? I guess that's a lot of stuff all at once.
Yeah. Well, I knew my uncles played guitar and my dad played accordion. And so I was around music a lot as a young kid, and my parents tell me I was drawn to it. When I was 10 years old, I got a keyboard for Christmas one year, and my uncle also gave me a guitar that he got at a German garage sale for $2 in the early 50s. And so I would take blank cassette tapes and record myself playing a Beatles song. I remember doing all this, and then I would rewind it and put it in a boombox, and then I would put another blank tape in and sing harmony and play keys or do a solo over it on guitar.
Yeah.
And I just would spend all my time doing that. And then I started composing a couple years later and never really... I wanted to be an NBA basketball player for a while, but...
You're tall.
I changed my mind at a certain point and just went all into music.
Yeah. When did you figure that you could write? You knew you could play and you could produce and put things all together. When did you figure out that you could write your own stuff and not just do, things you heard on the radio? The
earliest song that I remember writing, I was 12 years old, and I had a Beatles record live at the Hollywood Bowl, but I didn't have a record player, so I would just write lyrics down on pieces of paper and hide them in the LP thing, I remember.
Oh, cool.
And I looked at it years later, and apparently I wrote the lyrics on the top of the album, too, because the entirety of it was covered with the pencil or the pen, like going through the paper directly onto the thing. And there's only one song that I still perform. It's an instrumental called the Maui Song. I wrote it when I was 14, and it's still part of this set, usually only by request, but people sometimes request it, and it's the craziest thing.
Okay, well, next time you can do the Maui Song.
I'll do the Maui Song for you.
Okay, all right. Wow, so your parents, I take it, are pretty supportive of what you're doing, your family? And
They are. My younger brother is a doctorate in psychology and gave them a grandson. And so he's like the star child.
No.
But for some reason, my parents still like me, even though all I do is drive around and play music.
And how did you two meet?
He was actually on tour and came through Las Vegas where I was living. And I went to his show because I knew, it's like a long story. I knew his cello player was my friend.
Oh, okay.
So she invited me to the show, and I went to the show, and I really, really liked it. And we ended up all hanging out afterwards, and we just sort of clicked.
Yeah.
And kept in touch after that.
I love your playing. How long have you been playing cello?
I have been playing now for over 30 years.
Wow.
I started when I was 12, after playing the violin for a while. I started the violin when I was about 7 or 8 and got to a point where it just didn't really feel good anymore.
Okay.
And I remember sitting in orchestra class one day, barely paying attention, and they did a cello sectional. And I just realized how beautiful the cello was and felt it in my soul.
Yeah.
So I switched instruments and I sort of took off on the cello.
Yeah, yeah.
I kind of had plateaued
Have
on
you
the violin.
seen those electric cellos?
Yes.
Have you played one before?
I did.
What did you think?
I actually hated it.
Really?
But I'm thinking of trying again because it's really hard to bring this around on tour.
Yeah.
I already broke it.
I had mentioned earlier the band Iliami out of Baltimore, Maryland, and Kristen, she plays cello, but she has one of those electric cellos. And it sounds great, and it is a lot smaller. But it has to be, I'm sure it's Steinberger? Yeah.
Oh, okay. And it's probably different now. It was like 20 years ago. I was playing in a casino band, and they tried to get us all to play the electric instruments, but none of us liked it. And so I think the technology has probably gotten a lot better.
Yeah, yeah. So how long have you been playing with Chris?
I started last October. Or was it September? October.
All right. That's awesome. And I understand that y'all are kind of sweet on each other. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. It makes the music so much better, doesn't it?
Yeah. And more complicated, but also more fun.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's great having you here, and I would love to see you back with Chris. So y'all stay together, okay?
Yes, I hope.
Am I embarrassing you, Chris? Look at him.
He seems more embarrassed than me.
You are not only a solo artist, but you have a band that you've referenced many times. And you play mainly with the band when you're doing shows, I take it.
Lately, I feel fortunate that that's been the case. I played a long time by myself and toured by myself, totally alone in a 2010 Toyota Corolla.
Okay.
With all the gear in it and just like, but it's really fun to play. The bandmates that I have are terrific, and they know the songs really well, and they're all just great at what they do, and everyone just really enjoys. The music is very complex, and everyone embraces that and just tackles it head on.
And how long has the band been together?
I've been playing with the drummer for about 20 years. I think we're at exactly 20 years at this point. This is our 4th project together. Yeah. The bass player I met. I actually gave up completely on bands in 2016 and decided it's too much of a headache. It's too hard logistically to do bands and all the gear and everything. And
it's just hard to keep people together.
And people kept falling off and quitting for various reasons or getting a job in another state and moving. And so I just said, nope, no more of that. And then played solo for 2 years, including touring down here in Texas by myself. And once at one point, a couple years after that decision, I was playing this show, and a third band was added to the bill late night, and I stayed and watched them play, and I really liked them, and I went up to them, and maybe it was just because I had a beer or something. I felt bold, and I went up there and said, "Hey, would you guys be interested in backing me up on a track in the studio? I really like your vibe." And it ended up that the bass player and I became close, and we started playing together, and I introduced him to the drummer. Thanksgiving weekend, I was house sitting for a couple that were out of Portland. I think they were traveling through India over November, December. And so I was house sitting for them, and I wired up this giant room with stained glass windows, and there was an acoustic piano in there. It was a very nice house and nice rugs, and I brought the PA in, and I was like, all right, we're going to record this whole thing. We're just going to jam individually and with me. The bass player knew all the songs, and the drummer, of course, knows everything I've ever written. We've just been at it for so long. Introduced them that night, and the recording was terrible, but the vibe was there.
Yeah.
And we just kept going, and eventually we were joined by a cello player, and now we have our final cello player.
There you go. That's awesome. And what is the name of your band?
Chris Barron and Two Secrets. The first time I've ever been willing to put my name in the band. I was a big fan of Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah, me too.
Growing up, but I was like, I will never be the Chris Barron Band or the Chris Barron Trio. But I finally agree because I put together bands and then the band would break up and I would just lose all the momentum and all the branding and everything.
Right.
And
so you can keep the name of the band and just switch out players when need be.
And then we decided, or I guess I decided, Chris Barron and Two Secrets would be an adequate way to pivot no matter what.
Yeah, good idea. And I understand that you did the Tucson Folk Festival. When was that?
That happened. It was the 39th year this year. It happens in early April or late March.
Okay.
It's like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday deal. Mm-hmm. And maybe 5 years ago, they opened it up for the first time for people to apply to the festival who weren't Arizona residents.
Oh, nice.
And I was in the phase of applying to festivals, as my friend Dan Weber said. Mm-hmm. If you want to play a bunch of live music, apply to everything. Apply to every contest, every festival, even if you don't get in. Don't lose heart. At some point, your name will be recognized by someone on the board, and you'll kind of get an extra minute of consideration.
Right.
And I got lucky enough and got into Tucson in 2020. But it didn't happen. Something else happened that year. I don't remember what. But the festival was canceled. And I reapplied in 2021 and came down and won the contest. Just got first place in the contest.
Perfect.
My first day ever in that city.
That's wonderful.
And that started a whole chain of events. That was insane.
I bet it did. And you were down at Kerrville recently.
Yeah, just a couple days ago for the first
Yeah.
time ever. Kerrville Folk Fest, I've always wanted to play. They would never let me in. They would never even respond to my application.
Oh, wow.
So I decided this year we're going to just apply, of course, but we're also going to book shows in Kerrville.
Right.
So we just played there a couple days ago and drove straight here from there a couple days ago.
Now, have you done Swarfa?
No, I haven't.
No?
I've done the International Folk Alliance in Missouri and the Far West in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And that's it so far. I did intend on doing SWARFA in 2020. 2020 was the year I had planned, I signed up for all of it. I was going to do the Midwest. I was going to go everywhere. I was going to do this thing in Florida. Yeah. 260 shows canceled, 7 festivals.
Oh, yeah.
Just a ton of things, went wrong that year.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're going to be with our friends, the Lavens.
Yeah, you're going to see the
Yep,
Lavens.
they were kind enough to let us stay with them
great
next
people.
couple of nights.
They're
So
great
we're
people.
cruising down. We're going to play some open mics.
Good.
We really enjoyed Bulverde. How do you say it?
Bulverde.
Bulverde. Is that how you say it? And just north of
so.
San Antonio?
Yeah.
And then Spring Branch. We had such a great time doing this open mic at a place called Vine in the Village in Bulverde.
Oh, okay.
Bulverde.
Yeah.
Why are Texas words so hard for me?
Because you're an Oregonian.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now, you've played the Artichoke up there in Oregon.
Yeah, you
correct?
guys are familiar with that, right?
Yeah,
that was the last show that the full band played before we flew down to Texas.
Cool.
And we live streamed it there too. It was so cool, and it was like our send off.
Very cool. Yeah, Ken Gaines told us about you, and he had lots of great things to say.
Aw,
and I'm
Ken.
telling you what, Ken, he is so instrumental in the music room here, and he is just like a road warrior. And he moved to Oregon, as you know.
Yep.
And it didn't take him long. Boom! Now he's doing all kinds of stuff.
Total.
there,
He's
too.
playing with all my friends. He's playing
Yeah.
all the best spots. It's really cool. And I remember, I met him about 10 years ago.
Okay.
Almost 10 years ago, actually, I feel like, in Houston at a song circle. And maybe 5 years ago, I'm playing the show in Oregon City, Oregon, and in walks his son, Greg. And I was like, oh, no way. That's so cool.
That is neat. That's totally cool. Oh, man. So from here, you're going to San Antonio and Bulverde.
Bulverde, and Spring
Now,
Branch.
after that, do you head back to Oregon?
We're going to play on Friday night in Cibolo.
I don't even know where that is.
It's just north of San Antonio. It's I think it's Hill Country.
Okay.
It's very pretty. I played there last year on Mother's Day, a solo show, and I called them up and I was like, "Hey, I'm looking. I want to play some extra music, and I really enjoyed playing for you guys last year." I'm talking to Amber, the manager, and she's like, "Oh yeah, you played Mother's Day last year," and I was like, "Sweet, she remembers.
She remembers me. Yeah.
This is a good sign." And so we're gonna have a crazy day on Friday. We're gonna play from 7 to 10, the two of us in Cibolo at 1908 House of Ales and Wine. Is what it's called.
Wonderful.
And then we're gonna drive all this borrowed gear, the guitar, the PA, up to Round Rock,
Okay.
north of Austin, and drop that off with my buddy at around midnight. And then we're going to drive to Surfside, Texas, about 3 hours, and drop the car that we borrowed off. We have such good friends down here who help make this
do.
possible. And then then we're going to sleep for 4 hours, and the next morning our great friend who loaned us the car is going to drive us to the airport in Houston on the north side.
Oh, wow.
Unless it's been destroyed by flooding, which I think it's still
I don't
standing.
think so. I think we're okay there.
It's going to be crazy. Friday night, Saturday morning is going to be insane.
And you're going to sleep when?
No, never. No rest for the wicked, Helen.
I'm telling you what. I do have a question, just for my own benefit. When you are writing songs, do usually your lyrics come first or the melody? What drives what?
They come at the same time most
Okay,
times.
good.
There will be a piece of it. There will be a piece of poetry that has a cadence and a melody and and natural chords underneath it.
Okay.
And then sometimes that extends naturally quickly, but other times it's just a tiny little piece, a little starter, and I have to put in the work later and figure out what it was I was trying to say or what it was I was trying to feel in that
Yeah,
moment
right.
and build it out.
Very cool. So, what has been your most favorite place on the planet that you've ever played,
Well,
and why?
that's a really, really hard question. I guess one extremely memorable thing was when I went to Tucson for the first time and won the contest. And when they announced my name as the winner on Friday night, I just started laughing because I didn't know what else to do. But one of the prizes was the next day to play on the main stage right before the headliner. And so I went up there, and they were like, you get to do 4 songs, and then the first headliner's going to come on. And I played the 4 songs, and then the MC came out, and he was like, hey, everyone. There was at least 1,000 people there.
Yeah.
They said there was seating for 700 or 800, and it was all full. And then there's like this side area to my left that was full of people just hanging out,
Yeah.
dancing, watching, standing. And then there was kind of a fence along a road, a gate and a fence. And there were people on the sidewalk and in the main
It's kinda
street,
like
just
Woodstock.
like loaded as far
Woodstock
as I
all
could
over
see.
again.
And I did my final song. I was like, I planned my 4 and ended with a bang and
Yeah.
got a standing ovation. And it was so loud.
Oh, isn't that great?
It was so loud. And the guy came out and he was like, who wants more Chris Barron? And I was like, what? And everyone was like, more. He's like, you have time for one more. Can you do another song? And I was like, okay, I totally can, except I
Yeah.
just did my big finish. How do I up it from here?
Good problem to have.
So I did my best and played another song. And then I played 3 more after that. They just kept I did basically a 4-song encore.
Oh, wow.
One at a time, and it was so loud and so much like energy and love, and I was just totally by
yeah.
myself. I
wow.
I probably blacked out for a significant portion of
Oh,
it.
wow.
Didn't know what was going on.
That's super cool.
And then they invited me back to play next year, and got to play the main stage again next year. And then they invited me back this year, and I was like, "Can I bring my band?" And they said yes.
Oh,
so we brought the bass player and Debbie, and we did the trio, and it was.
Oh,
And I wore this exact shirt,
perfect.
my lucky shirt now.
Your lucky shirt. That's so cool. Well, I can't tell you how much we've enjoyed having you here, and I look forward to getting that aerial video that lady's going to do for you.
Yes.
I can't wait to see that,
Emily.
and I really can't wait to see y'all come back because we really enjoyed it, and I know that our audience would love y'all. So.
So you're saying there's a chance?
I'm saying that Randy doesn't have a choice in this. He just needs to get you on the calendar, if that's good with you.
Work in.
All right. Well, are going to keep up with you both, and I thank you so much for giving of yourselves and your music and your time because you could be doing other things.
Thank
But
you for taking a second for us.
You bet. And you are in the music room.